Let's talk window trim. I went down to Lowe's yesterday. You know, I'm in the middle of a shop remodel kind of project. And have you looked at the prices of their trim? Man, it's expensive. Yeah, but what got me started on this is I went down there and, I was looking at trim. It cost, a lot of it's $1 a foot. Some of it's $2 a foot. Like I just need a little, really thin, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch thin piece of wood like this to cover a seam. I got 12-foot walls. Put plywood up 8 foot, and then I want sheetrock the rest of the way. I just want a little piece of trim that I can paint and cover up that joint. It's like $8 or $9 for a 7-foot piece of this little, 3/16 inch thick wood. Total ripoff. This is for my shop. And it doesn't have to be fancy, but I still want my shop to look nice. And this would work in your home too, but let me show you how to get around Lowe's outrageous price. Make your own trim. It's not that hard. Yeah, these are the windows in my shop. They're all 2 foot by like 32 inches, I think. They're all the same. So, you're gonna have to make some boards to frame out the inside of the opening and, the top. So let me show you what I'm gonna use. And for those pieces that go around the inside part of the window, I'm, standard 1x6. And I got them at Lowe's. I dug through their rack, tried to find the least nasty ones they have. None of them are very nice. Then I'm going to turn your standard old cheap stud 2x4s into the actual trim. So like your standard construction grade 2x4, just for studs. They got a lot of knots in them. They're not that great. But if you dig through the rack and you're sort of careful, you can find something that's not too bad. Now with the table saw, I'm going to break these down, and instead of paying $1.50 a foot for trim, I'm going to make my own trim for about 15 cents a foot. Yeah, I'm just doing 3 windows today, so I'm going to break down my 2x4s into the sizes I need for the trim. I want to get rid of these rounded corners. I want nice square trim, so I'm going to run all the boards through one pass to get rid of that corner. It's up to you, but I've decided I want my trim to be 3 inches wide. So what you end up with is a 3 inch wide board that's got nice square corners on it now. Now I'm going to split it down the middle. Now what I'm going to go for here, I'm going to center that 3/4 mark or so right on a tooth. Well, as it turns out, they're almost exactly the same. I mean, I ran it through the second time, it was just barely touching, so perfect. Go ahead and split some more. Now you could call it done. I've got a sharp blade in my saw, and they're pretty good. There's a few saw marks. You can hit this with a belt sander, or if you got a really nice setup, one of those drum sanders, but I'm gonna run them all through a planer. Just skim them to where they're all smooth and all the same thickness. So what I ended up with is about 36 feet of trim. They're 3 inches wide, about a 1/2 inch thick. I figured that this cost me $6.55 to make these trim boards. If I would have purchased pre-made trim boards, it would be upwards of $50, maybe $55, depending on which exact trim you got. So I mean, there's a huge savings there making it yourself. And if you wanted to, and you wanted to run these through a router table, you could go ahead and put an edge on them too, but I kind of like the simple look. Here's a little piece of scrap I'm going to use as a spacer. One of my inner pieces. Here's a piece of that trim we just made with a table saw and planer. You generally want about a 1/4 inch reveal there. Gives it an interesting little shadow line. And your windowsill, you could end it right there exactly flush with the trim. I think most people go ahead and bring it about a 1/2 inch out. It seems to add a little more, I don't know, a little more visual interest. I hold all that where I want, and I'm just going to eyeball a spot. I want my windowsill to go to that point. I'll do the same on the other side. Okay, I got just about got all the pieces cut. Our inner trim is going to go up there. Then the trim we made on the table saw will go there with the reveal we were talking about. And another piece of that trim will go underneath. It's going to look something like that. It's going to look good. All right, got all the trim painted. There's 3 windows, obviously numbered 1, 2, and 3. And I kept track of when I fit them up the first time. This would have been a trim board on the right side, and I wanted this end of the board up. That's how I fit it to its spot. I'm going to use some paintable caulk to fill in the holes left by the brads, and maybe tidy up some of the seams, and then do a little touch up on the paint. Just a little putty to fill in the holes left by the brads, and some quick touch up to the paint. We're in business. Well, what do you think? Came out pretty nice. I really like it. Let me zoom in a little bit and give you some detail shots. See, nice tight joints. The paint sealed everything up really nice. You'd never guess that was made out of the cheap 2x4s. Really nice finished look for my shop. At the beginning of this video, I did kind of knock Lowe's for their prices, and it's not just them. Home Depot, all the big box stores have gotten that way. The old days of doing something cheap seem to have just passed us by. And I think this is more of an old style, maybe cabin style trim. You might have seen in the old days. And you know, if you did it in some rustic wood, it'd really look sharp. But don't let the high prices stop you. Some things you can make yourself and they come out just as nice. Thanks for watching.